Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Batafi. And today we are not merely going to talk about politics. We have been talking about politics for quite a few days. Today we are going to talk about economy of Pakistan, which seems to be facing quite an interesting time. The new government has taken over. For past 5 years, we were repeatedly told that the economy, everything is hunky-dory, economy is moving in the right direction. Then Dar Saab, the former finance minister, actually left. And when he left, after that, we saw a disappearing of what we used to call the Darnomics, his particular brand of economics as well. After that, new minister came, stayed for a very limited time. But since then, something with dollar rupee pricing has been sapping the energy of the economy. And then now we are hearing a lot about our forex reserves. What exactly is going on? We are going to discuss today. We want to understand, at least I want to understand, what are the options right now for Pakistan, because there are a lot of liabilities that we have to focus on, and we have to understand what exactly is the way forward. In order to help us understand all these issues, we are joined by Dr. Ashfaque Hassan Khan Saab, who is Dean, School of Social Sciences and Humanities in NUS University. Apart from that, he is also member of Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister. And I will be, by token of that, I will be actually requesting him to tell us what the government is thinking as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for joining us. Sir, the first question, and everybody keeps on speculating about it, is whether we are going to IMF or not.
Well, it is up to the government to decide whether they want to go to the IMF and do business as usual thing, or they say that no, we will do something our own, and we don't want to go to the IMF. So it is up to the government to decide.
Okay. If it is up to the government, why is it that the government hasn't made up mind so far?
They're evaluating all options, perhaps, and once they come to the conclusion, then they will take a decision.
Can you tell us about other options that might be available? Because the finance minister said that Pakistan needs somewhere between $9 billion to $12 billion in coming weeks.
No, I don't think that is the correct statement. He may have said this thing for a whole year, whole fiscal year.
No, as soon as possible, he said, yeah.
But I have no idea how that number came, $9 billion. So I haven't seen the calculation.
Okay.
But my personal view, and I'm emphasizing this as my personal view, I'm not representing the government, and I am not representing the Economic Advisory Council.
Okay.
I, as Dean of School of Social Sciences and Humanities,
Okay.
my view is that Pakistan has been going to the IMF quite often. Every 2-3 years, and we get into difficult situation, and we go to the IMF, they bail us out, we get temporary relief, and then we become, we think that the life is now hunky-dory, and we get back to our normal business. And then
which is?
Everything is fine, just do just like
spending.
Spending.
Okay.
So, and then we end up again going to the IMF. My view is that Pakistan should learn to live without IMF.
Okay.
We have been going to the IMF in the past. This is just like whenever you have a pain in your, you get headache, severe headache, you go to the doctor gives you the aspirin.
Right.
And it gives you temporary relief and you feel very happy. Going to the IMF is like taking aspirin.
Okay.
And it will give you some relief. But we are not trying to find out the reason why every 2-3 months or every 2-3 years we get severe headache. Why?
Okay.
Right? So let us, this time, let us work on this, that why we face every 2-3 years the same kind of problem, severe headache, and instead of going to the IMF for an aspirin, let us work on this.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what is your
Yes.
estimate?
Okay.
How much money do we need right now?
Okay. If we don't do anything, last year our current account deficit was $18 billion,
Right.
which for a country like Pakistan, it was unsustainable. This year, if we don't do anything, it will be somewhere around $20 billion.
Okay. Right.
If we don't do anything, just have our life as we have been, exactly the way we have been doing since May.
Okay. Right.
May onward until today, the way we are having our life, this is known as business as usual.
Right.
Then our current account will be somewhere around $20 billion, right? Then Pakistan will be needing approximately $7.5 billion for repayment.
7.5
billion.
And we are not taking into cognizance the liabilities that might be incurred by the Eurobond liabilities.
This is all included.
Okay.
This is all. See, we have interest payment to make, and then we have a principal repayment to make.
Right.
The amount which is due. So the amount which is due is also known in economic term as amortization payment or repayment of the debt. That will be approximately $7.5 billion, $7 billion, something like that. Because total debt servicing means principal and interest is about $8.7 billion,
Right.
to be exact. So principal repayment is about $7 billion. So we need $20 billion to finance our current account deficit, plus $7 billion for repayment.
Okay.
So how much do we need?
27
billion roughly. But in the meantime, Pakistan
And how soon do we need this? In July?
from July 1 and until 30th of June 2019.
Okay.
But in the meantime, Pakistan will be getting resources from traditional sources, non-traditional sources, from Chinese sources, from FDI. My calculation suggests that we might be getting about $12.5 billion at the max.
Okay.
So we require about $27 billion,
Right.
the requirement. The likely inflow will be somewhere around $12 billion. So gap is how much?
8.
No.
27. Okay. I thought that you were talking about 20.
27 minus
Yeah.
12 and a
12.
half.
It is 15.
So this roughly $14.5 to $15 billion. This is known as financing gap
Okay.
under business as usual scenario.
Right.
Means do nothing scenario. And now if you are thinking of going to the IMF, means that we have taken this as our fait accompli, do nothing scenario.
Okay.
This is the gap, roughly how much you calculated? 12? 15 billion.
Yeah.
This is the gap, and we don't know how to fill this gap. Okay. Therefore, let us go to the IMF. This, for me, this is the defeatist approach.
Okay.
That we don't want to do anything.
And what are the other approaches?
Yes, option. Now, if the country's leadership today ask the Ministry of Finance, Commerce Ministry, FBR and Industry Ministry that I want to cut our imports to the extent of $6 to $7 billion.
Okay.
Work out, take all those 137 pages of document, 8-digit imports, you can identify exact item which to be banned
Okay.
or which to be discouraged through heavy duty.
Heavy duties, right?
I want to cut down $6 to $7 billion of imports. And I want to prepare policy that will enhance our exports by $1.5 to $2 billion.
Okay. And this can be achieved within how much time?
9 months,
Okay.
the remaining 9 months. So how much is the adjustment? 6 to 7 billion and 1.5 to 2 billion.
Right.
So roughly $8 to $9 billion. So out of 15, you take away the $8 to $9 billion. You reduce the gap by reducing your import and promoting exports.
Okay.
So
right.
roughly $9 billion. Maybe this is the $9 billion the finance minister is talking about.
Okay.
Now, I am telling, this is the first time on any television that I am explaining this, and this is a very serious issue, which has been brought to my notice from a Pakistani who is working in a very influential position in Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Okay.
I just received, and he sent me, because he's my student, and he sent me knowing very well that I am now the member of the Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister.
Right.
And the message is that Saudi Arabia has disallowed Pakistanis to send their remittances through banking channel for the last 1 year.
Okay.
And if you look at the number, remittances from Saudi Arabia, it has declined by more than $1 billion in just 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
And
even though while remittances from elsewhere have increased.
Yes. But from Saudi Arabia, it is declining. And from UAE, it is stagnant at $4.3 billion level for the last 3 years.
Okay.
I think there is a need to look into these numbers, and I will appeal to the Governor of State Bank through this program that look at these numbers. How can a number 4.3, 3 years ago it was 4.3 billion, today it is 4.3 billion. No more, no less.
Okay. Right.
As if match is fixed. This cannot be, cannot happen. So I will request the Governor of State Bank to look into the remittance number coming from UAE as a whole.
Right.
But from Saudi Arabia, I am told
It has gone down.
it has gone down by $1.1 billion in just 2 years. Sorry, 2 years.
Okay.
So I was trying to find out the reason why it has declined, and the reason came to me today from
you
a very
mentioned.
that the Saudi Arabia has disallowed Pakistani or expatriate Pakistani to send their remittances back to Pakistan through banking channel.
Why?
This is their dictate or whatever you can call it.
Yeah, but there must be some reason behind it, right?
Pakistan is the only country.
Okay. Okay.
Is the only country not allowed to send the remittances back to the country through banking channel. So what is happening is that the Pakistanis who are working there, and they are not utilizing their bank account. So that bank account, if you don't utilize, become dormant.
Okay.
So they have no option but to send remittances through Hundi and Hawala. And that is the reason that why remittances from Saudi Arabia through the banking channel has declined. And I will appeal to the Prime Minister, because he will be going to Saudi Arabia very soon. So please, Mr. Prime Minister, take this into account. This is a serious issue for us, that why Saudi Arabia has singled out Pakistani expatriate and barred them from sending remittances through official channel, through banking channel. So they are forced to send remittances from unofficial channel, Hundi Halawala, and that is why, Mr. Prime Minister, we have reduced our remittances from Saudi Arabia has declined by $1.1 billion in just 2 years' time.
Right.
Mr. Finance Minister, if you accompany the Prime Minister, please take this to the kingdom.
Dr. Saab, coming back to this discussion, these are the options you are saying that we have to fix internally, right?
Yes. So if you bridge the gap is reduced.
Okay.
Then the next question.
We still have a gap of $6 billion, as you mentioned.
There's nothing in this modern world.
Okay.
I will float bond.
Okay.
Euro bond.
Right.
I will float Sukuk bond.
Okay.
I will float non-resident Pakistani bond, so that they can invest in Pakistan, and there is a lot of demand.
But don't you think it will take some time?
No.
To actually develop all these instruments?
You see, it is much quicker to raise money from international capital market than going to the international financial institution.
You just mentioned Disperin. and that is going to IMF, right?
Yes.
And you said instead you have to actually, work
You're-
on your own health.
Yes, and you are taking certain measures,
Right.
both to cut down imports,
Right.
non-essential
To cut
imports.
fat, actually.
Yes.
Now, tell me, is it possible that for immediate purposes, we take the Disprin, but also for the long term, we also go for these belt
There is no
tightening
need for
and
go
all?
to the long term because this is a 3 years program.
Okay.
And this government will be exhausting 3/4 or 2/3 of its tenure under the IMF program. What will happen to the 10 million creation of jobs? What will happen to 5 billion construction of houses?
Right.
From where you would get the fiscal space to spend on these money?
Yeah, but if I'm not wrong, especially when you talk about the job creation, is it not that they were saying that it will be in private sector, not in public sector? And that you can engender, you can create an environment where you can have both macroeconomic stabilization simultaneously.
When you go to the
Growth as
IMF,
well.
the first thing will be tight fiscal and tight monetary policy.
Okay,
By tight monetary policy means raise interest rate.
okay, okay.
Who will borrow at that interest rate to construct houses? Or private sector will come into investing in housing market.
People still construct their houses because they need houses?
Is there any market for this? Thriving market, housing market in Pakistan, where you can go and borrow money to construct a house, and how much it requires?
That Dr. Saab, depends on your policies, how you and your government actually regulates or advises the banks to actually invest. They can do it. Otherwise, on the consumer end, I'm a consumer. I need a home, I need a house, so I have to borrow money and I have to build a house.
It is not happening.
Okay.
And again, under the IMF program, when interest rate goes up, maybe the discount rate will have to go up to 10, 11%. So the lending rate will further increase. Second, it will be tight fiscal policy, means cut down your expenditure, reduce budget deficit. So there will be no fiscal space to, and then since the IMF program is a demand management program, the entire focus of the program is to cut down your demand. So do you think that the producer who is producing their commodities will continue to enhance their production when they know that the government policy is to cut down demand?
Right. Since you're talking about these recommendations that you have just given, and they must be quite important and they must be easy. So this country has been struggling with various options or especially economy for 72 years. Why is it that we haven't done it already?
Because we go to every time we get this headache, we go to the IMF for aspirin.
Okay.
When we get aspirin, it relaxes you and then you forget everything. You come down to the business as usual.
You can't do both. You can't actually take the medicine and then try to fix things.
You see, if you, this is one reason that it will hurt the government's program of creating 10 million jobs and 5 million houses, right? This will be the first casualty.
And I want to talk about job creation as well, because that is very interesting and it is something that is very close to my heart. But at this moment, when you are talking about these things, is it not true that whenever Pakistan goes to IMF, they say that come up with a homegrown package? And it is primarily your recommendation that goes to them and gets vetted. And in the previous government's term...
This is the press consumption. This is for the press consumption.
Okay. During past 5 years...
Based on my personal experience, these statements are press consumption, for press consumption.
Okay. During the previous government, during Ishaq Dar's time, it was especially when they were talking about budget and reforming your tax code and tax system. At that time, they sort of showed us a lot of lenience in reforming tax system while we were working with them.
That is why I have always stated that this was a political program, right? IMF simply doled out resources to the previous regime, and when they were not performing, they just kept their eyes and ears closed. That's it. and you will see there used to be a very common word. Reforms programs are broadly on track. Broadly on track. This is the political words which you will always see in IMF report. Broadly on track. In fact, I wrote an article under the title of broadly on track, and then I explained everything, that these were the things that you wanted the government to do and it hasn't been done, and yet you have said broadly on track.
Okay. Regarding timelines, there seems to be some confusion, because when I heard the finance minister and he was giving an interview on television, he was talking about next few weeks. And you're saying we need that money in 9 months.
Yes.
Not today.
For fiscal year.
Okay.
The entire fiscal year.
Has it not already started?
Yes, it has already started.
So you need money today?
No, not the entire money. No,
But some part of it?
But we have survived so far.
Okay. How do you shore up your forex reserves?
Our forex reserve, according to the State Bank, is close to $10 billion, which is, in my view, sufficient to finance 2 months of import.
Okay.
The rising level of import. But I'm glad that in the first 2 months, imports have decelerated sharply, and I'm also very happy that the remittance have gone up sharply. But interestingly, remittance from Saudi Arabia has continued to decline.
And you have already made your appeal to the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to fix that. Now let us talk about another matter that is quite important. We keep on talking about it. We haven't seen a long-term remedy. Remember 20 years ago when I started interviewing you, repeatedly we used to talk about reforming our tax system, tax culture. And then a word would come, and that was automation. Everybody would agree that we need automation. 20 years down the lane, we haven't seen automation.
Yes.
Why not?
It's a very good question. In year 2002, 2003, we started this automation in FBR. FBR established an organization with the name of PRAL, P-R-A-L, PRAL. It is an abbreviation for something that dealt with automation.
Okay.
And they made so much progress that they gave a presentation to the Ministry of Finance, and I was there in FBR. And they asked my name, I gave my name, that's it.
Right.
And believe me, they showed me my 1 year of transaction, how much money I have paid for my air ticket when I was traveling abroad. It was there. Although I was traveling on government money because I was official at that time.
And also you were known to them.
No.
You were not like somebody like
exactly,
me who might not be on that.
But I can see that, how much telephone bill I have paid, how much was my electricity bill, how much my gas bill, how much I paid for Islamabad Club as a member. Everything was there.
Okay.
And it was so easy to find out the understatement of a person who, when he or she is filing the tax return.
Right.
It was deliberately destroyed.
By whom?
The authorities.
Which authority?
When we left, it was all destroyed.
You're talking about the political government that came after Pervez Musharraf Saab's time.
Exactly.
And
even within the FBR.
Okay.
It was, they didn't like this, so much transparency.
Why not?
Because then
there's an element of corruption there.
Oh, everybody knows that.
Okay. I want you to actually answer that.
No, everybody knows that.
Okay. That element of corruption might be there, and one has to actually reform our tax culture. The previous government gave some relief to the salaried class, and it simplified the tax brackets. We hear that now this government is thinking of taking back that relief from the salaried class. Is it right?
You see, I don't speak for the government because they must be doing something.
But sir, you are connected to one of the key advisory councils. So you can tell us what is being thought.
No. We met only once.
Okay.
Right? Okay. It was an inaugural meeting where we exchanged we introduced ourselves, and that's it. But as a professional, and I've been saying this when the budget was presented, 2018-19 budget was a landmine. They laid the landmine for the new government.
Okay. They didn't, they were sure they are not coming back to the government?
This is my perception.
Okay.
Yes, they knew that they will not be coming, so they laid the landmines. Okay. Knew very well that whenever the new government comes, they will try to undermine this, and then we will be coming on the press. Look at this, how much relief we had given to the people, particularly the salaried class, and this new government.
Dr. Saab, I'm part of the salaried class.
Yes,
and I tell you,
myself too.
I tell you that relief was beneficial.
No, myself, I am also a salaried person. But you see, nowhere in the world, any sensible finance minister would do present such an expansionary budget when your current account deficit is going haywire.
Okay, right.
Means that you are further fueling the aggregate demand, giving money to the people so that they can spend.
Okay.
This was not the job of the finance minister of a person who is supposed to be a sensible person.
Okay.
So this was a deliberate. Not only
growth is not bad, sir. Even consumption-led growth is not bad, is it?
No, I'm not saying that consumption-led growth is bad or not, but given the circumstances that when you have a large deficit, if you
how large is by the way the deficit?
In my calculation, would suggest that it will be close to 7% of GDP, on the basis
as
of
for now.
No, I'm talking about the fiscal year which ended in June 2000.
Yeah, but as things stand today?
No, we don't have that monthly number. Yeah, we don't have that monthly number. But this close to 7% of GDP budget deficit is on the basis of Mr. Dar definition.
Okay.
It is not on the basis of historical definitions.
Okay.
It was changed from 2013 and 14 onward. Okay. So these numbers are not comparable with the history.
Okay.
And I have requested Finance Minister to please complete the history.
Okay. To bring back the old definitions.
Old definition, so that when we want
for the sake of consistency.
Exactly, and also because I come from the university, whenever our student undertake any research, they get all kinds of haywire result, which is not consistent with economic theory.
So what do you think is the real number?
Real number, it will be close to 8.5% of GDP.
8.5%?
Yes, that's right. And that is reflected on higher imports.
Okay.
You see, what happens is, in a very plain language, your income is 1,000 rupees.
Right.
You are spending 2,000 rupees. Naturally, the additional 1,000 rupees you are borrowing from somewhere, and then you are injecting in the economy. So additional 1,000 has been spent has been injected in the economy, and this money has gone to the people's hand.
Okay.
Some they will enhance their demand by buying Pakistani product. They will also enhance their demand by buying imported products. Right. And that is why import grew so fast during these periods, and that resulted into a very large current account deficit.
What if the government passes new SROs regulating imports, but it doesn't take this concession back? Because it is, after all, quite an expensive decision to make. People are voting, and you're taking the relief or money back from them. They won't be happy.
You see, it will be the duty of the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to explain to the people of Pakistan.
Okay.
Sir, 2018-19, morally they should not have presented that budget first. When they know that they will not be there to implement the budget, why are they presenting the budget? The government was elected for 5 years. They should be presenting 5 budgets, not 6 budget.
Is there any reason why we don't have any legal bar on that? Because the previous government kept on invoking law to claim that they can do it.
That is why I use the word moral. Morally, it was not correct to present the budget, morally.
But why is it that we don't have that bar?
Well, this is up to the parliament to
I
decide.
mean, if you are finance minister for 2 months, and the country is going to continue for, the year is going to continue for
Exactly.
10 more months,
Yeah.
shouldn't there be some legal bar that you cannot do it?
Ideally, yes, it should.
Okay,
There should be a bar.
Right.
But this is this parliament can come up with some.
so instead of asking the government for too many unpopular decisions, one is stopping imports. Our elite thrives on imports as well. Our elite, the rich people, right? And the working class thrives on money and stopping that money as well, because the working class has to actually rely on that. Can't we actually go for the discipline that we were talking about?
Well, it is up to the government.
Okay.
But I, as a Pakistani, I consider this as an insult because I have dealt with this institution.
Okay. 14 times Pakistan has gone to IMF.
Since 1998 and onward, until 2004, when we got out of the IMF program. So for 6 years, I've been dealing with the IMF. And since 2004 and 2008, we were not on the IMF program. We went back to the IMF program in 2008. We went back to the IMF to 2013. And now, as you say,
15th time, we might be going there as well.
We can go, there is no harm. But I think that it is insulting for all of us.
So I was reading a book,
a
commentary about India, 1990s, especially by their chief, chief economist. And the argument was that during that time in 1990s, when the government got elected, Congress got elected, a message was sent to them by the IMF. If you follow our remedy, you will become something. Otherwise, you won't. And at that time, the government decided, because Rajiv Gandhi had been assassinated, to follow their recommendation. First, they recommended a finance minister. First person refused. The second person accepted, and his name was Manmohan Singh. And then they followed their recipe, and today India is a successful economy.
India became a successful not because of the 2.5 years of IMF program.
Okay, but
right?
Because of Manmohan Singh, who became their prime minister. He was also recommended
Manmohan
by
Singh as a finance minister.
Okay.
And then as prime minister, he was not as successful
Effective,
as he was as a finance minister. Yes, Narasimha Rao, Manmohan Singh combined, they brought India from that mess of early 90s to now the modern India. It was not the IMF.
Okay.
Remember, in 1997-98, when there was the East Asian financial crisis, starting from Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Korea, Indonesia, it was a meltdown. Everybody went to the IMF except Malaysia. And Malaysia was the first country to get out from this crisis.
Right. That is true. But since we are talking about these matters, there are other concerns as well that need to be addressed. Like you were talking about job creation. Job creation comes with business expansion, more investment. For that, one has to talk about ease of doing business and great opportunities. Indian government today has actually, they passed their GST bill. That actually simplified the investor code, and now they have to go for very few windows. They don't have to go for hundreds of windows to just do business. Do you think that there must be something in there for us as well?
We should replicate.
Okay. Pakistan,
there is
after
no
18th
harm.
Amendment.
There is no harm of replicating good policies if it is being implemented successfully in neighboring countries. We can learn from their experiences, right? Now, regarding India or come back to Pakistan, what India did, India introduced reform. The only constant is reform.
Right.
The only constant is change. Change is only constant in life.
Okay.
If we don't change ourselves continuously with the changing global environment, we will be perished. And this is what has happened. That we were 67 in cost of doing business scale which comes from the World Economic Forum, we have come down to 100 and something, 66, 67. Because we did not reform ourselves.
Okay.
So, who will introduce these reforms? This is the challenge, right?
Okay.
If we come from the IMF, the IMF will come with a set of reforms, and believe me, the experience suggests that the program will be so painful. It has always been painful that after when you sign an agreement, they give you first tranche. Then, after 1 quarter, they will come for a review whether you have implemented or not, and where the government will be tested, and the program, the life of the program is only 1 tranche.
Okay.
And that is why Pakistan was regarded as a 1 tranche country.
That is true, sir. But since you have brought it back to IMF, let me ask one thing.
Yeah.
The present government talks about bureaucratic reform, right? IMF will also ask about that. The present government talks about stopping wasteful expenditures and leakages. IMF will ask about that as well. The present government talks about increasing the tax base, especially direct taxes. IMF also talks about that. I don't see the contradiction, with the exception of the political cost that might be there, because the present government kept on saying they might not.
We should be doing all these things on our own. Why we should be asked by the IMF to do these things?
Okay.
Why we should be asked? We should be doing all these things on our own. We have to prepare our own agenda, implement those agenda. Why there is a need to go to the IMF then?
Right. But sir, on one side you're talking about cutting down imports. You're talking about increasing
course.
the army of SROs that we have.
No, I'm not saying armies of SROs.
Okay.
I never said that.
But restricting the imports, right? In some ways. And
Yes.
then you're talking about, ease of doing
IMF
business.
will also say the same thing, cut down your imports.
But ease of doing business as well, simultaneously.
This is our reform agenda.
If I want to, I'm a foreigner, I want to invest in the manufacturing sector, and I don't have the kind of raw material available in Pakistan, what do I do when you don't want to actually allow too many imports?
See, I'm not talking about cutting down imports of raw materials. I'm not talking about cutting down imports of petroleum product, fertilizer, medicine. I am talking about imports of those items.
Luxury items?
Luxury items. Car is a luxury item. Cell phone is a luxury item. If we don't import $1 billion cell phone for 1 year, Pakistan is not going to be destroyed. If we don't import car on which we pay our foreign exchange for 1 year, do you think that the poor people will perish because we are not importing car?
Okay. Now,
So I am talking about all those goods which are luxury items.
And how many are those?
Oh, there can be plenty. And this is what I'm saying. If
Can
the
you-
Prime Minister... No,
Can you break it down into some percentage of the total imports?
it is difficult at this moment because, as I said, this is the 137 pages item. There are 8,000 lines. So you have to go each item and see whether this item is essential or not.
Right.
Take actions on those items.
Right. How to improve FDI?
FDI will improve if you do basically improve your cost of doing business, number one. Consistency in policy, clear in policy. Of course it will come. Today, foreign investors except China, China accounts for more than 50% of foreign direct investment.
Right now, because
Right
of the
now.
CPEC.
Because of the CPEC as well, but the others are not moving in. So they are also waiting. See, Pakistan has passed through a very turbulent period in the last 2-3 years. So the investors...
How turbulent? Because of the political reasons?
Of course. It makes a lot of impact to the outside world.
Right.
So they were waiting for things to settle down, means they were waiting for the election to come. A stable government should come into power, the stable government should announce its policies. They will evaluate those policies, and then people are already showing a lot of interest.
Right. Doctors are traveling abroad all over the world. I see a lot of investment pitches being made by other countries, including India, China, and our other Asian brethren. I don't see that kind of pitch or that kind of aggressive campaigning going on in their media elsewhere.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely
Why
right.
not?
Again, the government. You see,
Which government would not want foreign direct investment
which
to come
government would not want to have a permanent foreign minister in the country?
in? Okay, okay. People's Party,
Permanent foreign minister?
forever.
No.
Yeah, for 5 years.
For 5 years, of course.
The previous government had one. People had a problem with that. But People's Party kept on struggling with its finance ministers because in 5 years they had to have 5.
So when there is no stability in finance ministership, there is no stability in finance secretary, no stability in governor of the central bank, no stability in chairman FBR, 7, 8 chairman FBR change in 5 years' time, 3 governor central bank, 2, 3 finance minister, 6, 7 finance secretaries. Why do you expect there is a stability in economic policy making in that country? And why do you expect economy to be a stable economy in an unstable environment?
Right, Dr. Saab. Actually, that answer is a cliffhanger, but I'm told that we have to conclude the program. On this cliffhanger, we have to leave the program, but we will definitely invite you again and bother you and seek your counsel once again. Dr. Ashfaque, Hassan Khan Saab, thank you very much for your time. Viewers, you have listened to Dr. Saab, you have listened to what the serious concerns about our economy are, but we need a very broad-based debate on these matters. Regarding IMF, I'm sure Dr. Saab, with due respect, will allow me to differ with him on the IMF issue, because that issue I've seen for quite some time. Perhaps that might be a shot in the arm. We need a shot in the arm. It is my opinion. But this was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.